November 18th meeting of the Currituck County Board of Commissioners to order. At 6 o'clock, we had a work session to discuss farmland preservation program. At 6:30, we had a work session to discuss a foreign trade zone. At this time, I'd like to call on Reverend Eric Rainwater from Currituck Bible Baptist Church to lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let's pray together. Father, thank you so much for your precious grace and, Lord, your priceless blood that was shed on the cross of Calvary for our sins. Father, tonight we ask that you bless this meeting. Lord, we've elected these folks here before us, and Lord, we ask that, God, you would honor that and that you would guide them with your provident hand. Lord, we pray for our county, and we pray, God, that you would have your hand upon it, not because of anything that we've done or because we're great, but Lord, it's because we humble ourselves before the mighty hand of God. We thank you, Lord, for this evening, and we ask your blessing on this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Rainwater, I believe this is the first time you've been.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you coming, and thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. I would like to, for the benefit of the audience, to acknowledge that Commissioner Gilbert and Commissioner McCord will not be with us tonight.
They're in training, I think, right?
Yeah, some kind of school. This time we'll go to public comment. At this time you have an opportunity to address the board. We ask that you state your name and address for the record, and Mr. McCree keeps the time at 3 minutes. Thank you. First we have Miss Mary Etheridge.
Good evening. My name is Mary Etheridge, and I live at 846 Shawboro Road, Shawboro. My family and I have been involved in litigation with Currituck County since 2011 over illegal spot zoning in our neighborhood. At that time, Mr. Griggs and Mr. McCord were not serving on the board. In little more than a week, we will be observing Thanksgiving, so there is no better time to tell what I'm thankful for. First, I'm thankful for Mr. Martin because on December 5th, 2011, he stated that he certainly would not want a junkyard in his neighborhood, and he was the only commissioner voting to deny the conditional rezoning that would allow a junkyard to be located within 600 feet of my home. I'm thankful to the planning board, the planning staff, the sheriff, and all the other entities in the county who also thought a junkyard in Shawboro was not a good idea. I'm thankful to my neighbors who took their time to come to several meetings and voice their opposition to a junkyard in Shawboro and for their continued support. I'm thankful for the support I'm receiving from people all over the county who think that the county commissioners acted improperly. I'm thankful to the Superior Court judge who asked the county attorney how he could argue a case after he had informed the commissioners that they needed to find facts and findings, and they just ignored his legal advice. And I'm most thankful to that same judge who ruled in our favor, telling the commissioners that they were wrong. I'm thankful to the North Carolina General Assembly that passed the law to try and prevent what has happened to us from happening to other citizens by awarding attorney fees. And I'm also thankful that if you wait long enough, everyone's true colors will begin to show. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ms. Etheridge. Ray Meggs.
Good evening. I'm Ray Meigs. I live in Southern Shores in Dare County and work at the Wellhead Preservation Trust, the Wellhead Club. And happy to be there and happy to be here. I'm here to talk to you about Christmas in Corolla, where we got started, where we are today, and the reading challenge that we introduced to Currituck County schools. Last year, we started with a baby step and brought the Waves Charter School children into Wellhead with the choir from high school and performed in the library to 100 people plus. We knew we had something we could do at Wellhead to give back to this community. So we began building a partnership throughout the community outside of the Currituck boundaries. Coastal Studies Institute, you know, we now have an MOU with them. We have a Currituck Maritime Heritage Fellows program where graduate students from East Carolina came this summer. We have reignited our internship program with the high schools. I had 4 kids there throughout the summer. Invited the 4-H kids from Currituck County at no charge to this county to do our education programs about history and heritage out on the Outer Banks. So this fall, we presented to Allison Schaller a reading challenge to combine with our illumination and Christmas in Corolla. Allison met with her team and Sensible helped to deliver this program, and I want to tell you, it has jumped out of the gates. The children that we presented to the Board of Education last week, these are the latest numbers. 10 out of 10 schools are participating along with the charter school. 106 teachers plus 10 media center coordinators. 2,613 students have signed up to read books through this challenge. We have now reported as of today, in 3 weeks' time, 6,689 reading units to date. This weekend on Saturday, we had the Beta Club and parents stringing stars for every book that's been read. We now have 10,000 achievement stars strung on beads that will be hung on 25 plus Christmas trees in the basement of Wellhead. The children will be recognized when they come to see their name on banners on those Christmas trees. Those Christmas trees have been donated from people from as far away as Manteo to the 4-wheel drive area, and staff have brought them. We'll have 9 trees in the house. We will have 25 crab pot trees in the park, and all of these will be to recognize our children who have started reading. A part of our effort to market Christmas in Corolla, it is about getting people up there as well, included an incentive to Dare County residents to come. For those people that come from Dare County on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this week, $1 of their ticket will be given to the Education Foundation. I firmly believe that money will recycle back into their grants that they give their students to come and see what the good work of Currituck County is being done for children. So we know we have 250 kids coming from Dare County already. We have 2 school bus tours coming from Greensboro this week. We have a total of 500 children in Wellhead this week when we reopen on Wednesday. This literacy challenge has legs, and we have an anonymous donor to support and underwrite this entire program, where we have 3 levels of prizes. 1 level is to our media centers in the schools. The 2nd level is a pool of gifts we're collecting for teachers who are participating in this program. And the 3rd is a $50 gift certificate to a star reader from each school to a bookstore. So the money, all of that is going back to our children in Currituck County. They have to pay nothing to come and participate. We are giving this back to Currituck County children. We hope to grow this program. Our funder tells us there are other national organizations that are watching, and they like to see innovation in education, and we believe we can find grants to grow this program and make it a broader program for the children of this region, and especially the children of Currituck County. I'm proud of the work that the Trust has entrusted us to do for these children, and I hope you will come. We had 25 volunteers in the house all day yesterday and today. The house has been transformed. The park is being transformed, and I want to see all of you there. Go to the website and visit Christmas in Corolla. You can still contribute prizes for the pools of the teachers and the children. I hope you'll come. Now, I want to answer your questions. I know there have been some concerns, and I want to help address them for you.
All right, questions?
I'll go first. Might be the only one. The ad.
Right.
$1 from each ticket sold during this weekend will go to Dare County Education Foundation. $1 from each ticket sold. Didn't say Dare County ticket, it says each ticket sold. Most of the people up here today got phone calls that we're contributing to Dare County Education, our money. Currituck County paid for the ad. And what do we tell the people when they call up and say, I don't want my money to go to Dare County, I want it to go to Currituck County? And are these Dare County residents and students, are they paying to get in?
Yes.
So you're going to give $1 back?
We're giving a discount of a ticket for Dare County residents. Currituck County residents come at no charge.
Okay, and just the way it reads.
I understand. We could have done a better job on the ad, it sounds like. And I apologize for the heat that it sounds like you're getting, but we are not giving Currituck County money away. We are investing that incentive as a marketing tool to bring more residents up from the Outer Banks south of the line to enjoy Christmas in Corolla. And again, the money, the dollar is going to their education foundation. And
But
the
it's just Dare County people buying tickets where the dollar's coming from.
That's correct.
Okay.
You say Currituck people is no charge for admission?
No. We're hoping that the specialty tours will be bringing a lot of people. We don't give those away.
Now, the
Commissioner.
specialty tours, does $1 of that go to Dare County?
No. This is the legacy tours. They're standard tours during the day, the $10 tour. The candlelight tour from 6 to 9 that we're introducing starting this week.
Mr. Meggs, if I may,
Yes, sir.
the whole idea of including our sister county to the south was that was actually to, I would think, incite them to come to Wellhead. Was that the idea behind that?
That's our sole purpose
By
to.
giving a discount, et cetera?
Yes, sir. And also to share with them, they came to us when they heard about this reading challenge we were doing with the Currituck schools. They're excited about it. And I think the fact that Currituck County is allowing us to introduce programs like this can help put us on the map as not just a preservation of Wellhead, the house, but also a preservation trust that teaches and broadens the story of Currituck to other people.
Well, I too have had people call me, and I spoke to the chairman of the Board of Education. He called me, and he was some concerned about that, and asked me, what exactly was taking place. And what you have said here is obvious that you are doing the best for the people of Northeast North Carolina, as well as our kids, especially in Currituck County, and I applaud the work that you and your staff are doing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And if I could, just to reiterate, the number of Currituck County students that have been and are actively participating in this project is
6,689.
today. Okay.
That's how many reading units. I'm sorry, I read the wrong number.
It was-
That's how many reading units they've done in 3 weeks.
It was-
The number of
Yeah.
students,
The number of students.
the number of students is 2,613.
And they encompass students from middle schools,
Every
elementary
level.
schools, every level.
We were expecting K-6 to participate in this program when we launched it. We had no idea it would go all the way to the high schools and the middle schools and every school in the county. We're thrilled, but we're overwhelmed.
Have you got enough room in the basement? For
No,
all
we do
those-
not.
For
We're,
all those
we're-
beads that are going to be representative of the reading units?
No,
that,
well,
you're
we are
accumulating?
stringing the beads as hard as we can go, and you must see the house. It's unlike, I think, anything you've seen in the past, where it is decorated from top to bottom, and the park is as well. And I hope to see you over there too, Mr. Manager.
Is this on our website, the county website, Dan? Mr. Manager?
I don't believe it is.
Shouldn't we
Get it
put
there.
it on there?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a comment. I did
Yes,
not
sir.
get any phone calls, but anyhow, thank y'all for what you're doing. It sounds like an exciting program. It's going to do good things for a lot of kids, and just thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Meggs.
welcome. Thank you.
That's all we have signed up to speak for public comments. There's anyone that missed an opportunity wishes to speak? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comments. Move on to administrative reports. Ms. Janie Mercer with the Economic Improvement Council to present the 2014 Anti-Poverty Plan.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Janie Mercer, Case Manager for the Economic Improvement Council Community Services Block Grant Program. I'm here just to give you a brief summary of our 2014-2015 Anti-Poverty Plan. The Office of Economic Opportunity, Department of Human Health Services in Raleigh, North Carolina, requires that all community action agencies submit their grant applications to the county commissioners. The grant application that was submitted to you is for information purposes. We also are required to have a public hearing in all 10 counties that we serve. The CSBG program is administered by the Economic Improvement Council and governed by a tripod board of 15 members. The project to be offered for the 2014-2015 program year is our Family Self-Sufficiency Program. This project will provide 56 low-income families or individuals to become self-sufficient. In order to enroll in this program, families or individuals must meet the guidelines and have a purpose and a willingness to accomplish their goals. Supportive services will be provided for these customers to accomplish their goals. Our funding period is from July the 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015, and the amount is $281,576. Thank you so much for allowing me to present our anti-poverty plan.
Ms.
Any
Mercer,
questions?
I've got to tell you, you're welcome to come do a presentation anytime. And you can work with staff and teach them how to do a presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I'll second that motion. Ms. Mercer, ask you a question. Does social services in the county get involved in administering this, or steers you to the to the right people as far as the families?
They do. They interact with us.
Okay,
And we refer to them, and they refer back to us.
thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Mercer, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
So very
wonderful
much.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Public hearings, the first one is public hearing and action on PB 13-19 Ginger Morris, request to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 2, Administration to revise the standards regulating family subdivisions to allow for additional family subdivisions to be permitted on the same parent parcel, provided a certain amount of time has passed. Mr. Woody?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will attempt to be brief. What this request does, it basically allows additional family subdivisions to be permitted, as you said, provided a time frame has passed or duration of time has passed. So real quickly, a family subdivision is a type of minor subdivision, but the difference is that these lots are created and they're then created for the intention of giving those or deeding those to someone within 2 degrees of kinship. So, for example, you could create a family subdivision to establish lots for a daughter or a son or a granddaughter or grandson. The advantage of the family subdivision is it allows the conveyance of these lots without meeting the standards of a major subdivision ordinance, and you can actually create the lots off what's called a private access street, so you don't have to build a full DOT road. So effectively, it's a way to allow lots to be conveyed in a very simplistic manner. Hopefully that's the intent, for the benefit of family members. So good thing for the county. What prompted this amendment is the way we determine 5 lots, a minor subdivision or family, is it's based on a date. And the date is April 2nd, 1989. So as every parcel of land existed in Currituck County on April 2nd, 1989, they were deemed to be what's called parent tracts. And then from that parent tract, once 5 lots are subdivided out, at that point, any additional lot is then considered a major subdivision lot. That's when you get into the open space, water line connections, parkland dedication. It gets complicated fast. And the reason that date was established, and it makes sense, was to provide that someone wouldn't come in and do a minor subdivision every 5 years and just keep creating lots out of the same parcel and doing so in a manner that would basically circumvent the ordinance. So it's a way to kind of manage growth and make sure that at a certain point when you're dividing property, you're doing so in a manner that's consistent with the major subdivision ordinance and all the other rules that everyone else is meeting. What makes it tricky is, and to give a good example is, say in 1989 you had a 100-acre piece of land. In 1990, that land was cut into 2. So you've got 2 50-acre tracts. Each of those are greater than 10 acres, so they're exempt from the subdivision ordinance. Family A gets one of the 50-acre tracts. Family B gets the other 50-acre tract. Family A decides, I'm going to go ahead and cut up 5 lots and give them away. So let's say in 1992, Family A subdivides 5 lots out. Well, remember, that parent tract was originally a 100-acre tract, so all 5 of those subdivision lots have been created. Family B comes back 25 years later, wants to cut out a lot for a kid, and they can't do it. And that's the amendment that's basically before you tonight, more or less. So what staff, in working with Ms. Morris, what we thought the best way to do was, because I think we would all agree that the intent of a family subdivision is not to bypass ordinance requirements, it's to allow you to provide parcels of land to heirs to your property. And what a reasonable way to do this is basically continue to have family subdivisions exist as a minor, so you can cut 5 lots out and they're deeded to a parent or a kid or a grandkid, but let that time period, that parent tract clock, reset every 10 years. And 10 years is a number that's used in some other counties and cities. It's somewhat arbitrary too, but the idea is that after 10 years passes, that parent tract kind of resets and you can recreate lots for family members. So it allows a family to continue to create lots to be passed to family members as more, as the family continues to grow and expand. So what this ordinance does is basically resets the clock. So every 10 years, the parent parcel would reset, and you could create more lots for a family member, for somebody within 2 degrees of kinship. Now, one thing that I would say is, in order to continue to prevent kind of the circumvention of the ordinance, it is important to say that the provision, and staff worked with the applicant to modify this, basically to clarify that when a lot's created, that it's conveyed to an individual family member, and it's just that one lot. So it's a one-time exemption to give a lot to a child or a grandchild. The other thing that we used to have in the ordinance that we've kind of tweaked a little bit too, in addition to resetting the parent parcel, the clock, so to speak, is we also used to say that you can never convey more than 1 family subdivision lot per year, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, because if you want to give a lot to each of your kids, you probably want to do that at the same time. So we would suggest kind of getting rid of that 1 lot per year. And basically the way this would end up, as staff is recommending, is the applicant's requested, is you can create family subdivision lots out of a parent parcel, and that parent parcel date resets every 10 years. So it's something you can kind of continue to do in perpetuity, but it's 1 lot to 1 kid, and it's to a family member. The planning board heard this request at their October meeting, and they did recommend approval. The planning board's motion for approval included that the maximum of 1 lot to be conveyed to a family member, that be stricken, so you could basically convey as many lots as you wanted to a family member. But staff's recommendation would be to continue with the 1 lot per family member as a family subdivision would typically be. Now, I'll note one thing I wanted to clarify is still doesn't mean that you couldn't, as a property owner, you couldn't do a conventional minor subdivision. It doesn't mean you couldn't even do a major subdivision. So this isn't a prevention of subdivision. It's just clarifying an exemption to subdivision for family members. And so with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? So the applicant's original request was to allow it to do with just that one track, and then the planning board said on every track if they want to do
On
it,
every tract, yeah.
which would mean that my son could get 3 or 4 or 5 lots and just start selling them instead of doing the family subdivision.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, any further questions? I'm going to open the public hearing. Don't have anybody signed up to speak. Does anybody from the Morris family wish to speak, or you don't have to?
No, I think Ben has said it very, the way that it needs to be stated. It has been on the record since 1989 that this has even been revised or looked at. And I think for the healthy, the subdivision issues with the family, as they claim it.
Ginger, go ahead. Tell everybody who you are and where you live.
Ginger Morris, Barco, North Carolina. Ben has stated it as it needs to be stated, and I just want to clarify that it has been on the record since 1989. It was put in because we needed to do something with the growth of the county, but it just definitely needs to be something that the county needs to look at because of the time frame. And I do definitely agree with the 10-year time frame.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve PB 13-19 as presented by staff due to its consistency with the 2006 land use plan that the request is reasonable and the public interest. And I want to emphasize staff recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion for approval.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, public hearing and action, PB 13-15, water supply standards. Request to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 6, required infrastructure, and Chapter 10, definitions and measurement, to revise the water supply standards to exempt certain development from connecting to the county water supply system. We had a presentation on this a couple meetings ago and a work session before our last meeting, and I'll let Mr. Woody give us a brief synopsis.
I'm going to do a brief update. We've already covered the core of this text amendment. The question is if the county provides that any tract of land that's greater than 1 mile from a 6-inch water main is exempt from connecting to the water system and therefore exempt from providing some sort of cash deposit or bond, what would that mean exactly? So if you look on your monitor, Currituck County, the mainland has 202 square miles of land area. There you can see the water lines that exist in the county. If you provided a 1 mile buffer from those water lines, that would mean that 73% of the land area in the county is located within 1 mile of the water line. So that would tell you that 73% of the land area would either have to, if this amendment were passed, would either have to connect to the water system or provide a cash deposit for future connection. That leaves 27% that's outside of the 1 mile. So if you look at that in a little more detail, of that 27% that's outside of 1 mile, 6% of the mainland area would be uplands. So what that means is, what that tells you is that the majority of the land that's located more than 1 mile from an existing water system, therefore would be exempt from connecting, is the orange-colored areas on that map, and you can see a great majority of that's just basically swamp or wetlands. I mean, it's not developable land. So what you effectively have is about 6% of the mainland area that would fall under this exemption, being located greater than 1 mile. That if this ordinance amendment were adopted, and I'll zoom in a little bit. Probably the biggest area where it has the most impact, of course, is up in the northwestern part of the county where you have Northwest Backwoods Road, and you can see a lot of that's kind of residual dismal swampland, so it's not going to really be developable, but you do have some upland areas, and most of that 6% probably does exist in this corner of the county where we really don't have a lot of water infrastructure to speak of. That's basically what this amendment creates. It creates a boundary where on one side you have required connections and bonding requirements. On the other side of the boundary you would have some sort of exemption for what is basically 6% of upland area. In addition to Mr. White's request, I do want to note one more thing. Mr. White's request basically is to create that exemption. When staff from the TRC reviewed this ordinance, we also made a couple of recommendations in addition to Mr. White's. One is we clarified some of the terminology. I think you'll see in the ordinance sometimes we'll use different terms to say the same thing, and you want that consistency in the language. Staff also, right now we have a requirement that if you get into a bonding situation, you provide a 3-year cash deposit. After 3 years, the deposit's refunded, and then we go to tracking a letter of credit for 7 years. Staff is suggesting that we no longer track the letter of credit. It seems like if we're going to do a bonding approach for infrastructure installation, it really probably needs to be a cash deposit, or because letter of credits become difficult to track year after year. They become difficult to renew and track. So that's one thing. The last thing is staff clarified that this ordinance amendment be consistent with the North Carolina Fire Code. Basically, when you have, and we talked to the fire marshal and worked with DOI on this, effectively when you have a major subdivision, so 6 or more lots, you are then subject to fire protection standards. And what this ordinance does, in addition to creating the mile buffer, it establishes that major subdivisions are subject to fire protection, which is either a source of water on a 6-inch line with a fire hydrant, or it's going to be a fire pond. Planning staff heard this at their August meeting, actually, and they recommended approval of this request. And I can answer any questions the board has.
Any questions of Mr. Wood? Yes, sir.
How far is Mr. White's property from the water line?
The applicant can
4.5
state
miles.
that more correctly than me, but I want to say it was 3 to 4 miles. So it's well outside of the 1 mile distance.
So what we're really, only thing we're trying to determine now, if it's a mile or less. Whatever we do tonight does not apply to Mr. White. Is that right?
If you deny this request tonight, I mean, if the request is approved with a 1 mile buffer, then he would be exempt from the bonding or connection requirement. If it's denied, then of course everybody in the county is subject to the bonding and connection requirement.
Yes, sir.
I have mixed feelings about this thing, and you know the questions I've asked and how I've been involved in this. I totally understand the applicant's perspective. I do. Not only him, but anyone else who, I mean, the onus of where we're going in a comprehensive plan with water is on us, the county. We don't have one, evidently, at this point in time. And my thing is we need one. Then we can take a look at this thing comprehensively across the board. People who are not going to be within a 10-year plan study area shouldn't be having to put up any money. People that are should have to, because there's the infrastructure that we're going to be providing. We've been piecemealing this thing as we've been going along, and it seems as though, just from my perspective, we're getting a little further out of whack each time we do it. My personal opinion is I would like to see us address this thing comprehensively, come up with a plan, come up with a policy, and be done with it. And so, although I understand where the applicant's interests are, I understand also that this thing has 3 or 4 moving parts to this thing. Some I feel strongly in favor of. I just don't know how to make a motion to address what I want to do other than with a denial, and make a motion to move forward in a certain way and say that, you know, people are exempt after this study is done, and put a time frame on the study. So help me with it. Or gentlemen, help me with it.
Could I address this? Ben, as we move along Swamp Road, all at once we have a 4-lane highway going across through there. If we extend that water line, as we extend it, does that not push back, you know, the 1 mile to perhaps, you know, they may be exempt then or today, but 5 years from now they would not be. They would still have that, since the water line has climbed or has moved that far?
That's correct. As we grow the water system, the exempted areas will change. Will actually decrease in area overall.
And do we have that, you know, do we actually have that language, that type of language in the UDO?
As it's written, that exemption would move as water lines were installed, yes.
And do we have a plan from the water department or from the county that suggests, you know, when we will actually be extending those lines?
The water department and the county engineer's office developed some criteria and sort of a ranking of extending water lines into existing subdivisions. So I think they have a really good idea of how to service existing houses, subdivisions that were built without water infrastructure. We would probably need to do additional study in terms of creating a plan that would be more geared based upon development trends. Extending water lines to places where there aren't existing subdivisions necessarily. That I think we're deficient in, that part of it.
To protect the county, would it not be, good due diligence on the part of this board to have some way to protect our ability to expand the system by requesting or, actually perhaps not holding cash but having a bond in some way or other so that in the future we would be able to extend those lines?
And if I understand the question right, I think obviously having a bond or any kind of cash deposit to rely on is a good thing, particularly if we have a plan for where we're going to extend water lines, if we had service areas or growth areas. Is that your question? I think is that
Yes.
a good idea? I think it
Yes.
is. I mean, the bond probably ideally would work in concert with an extension plan geared towards projected growth trends. So yeah, I mean that would be the ideal scenario.
At this point, do we know where those lines are going to be extended? Do we have a table where we're looking to do that, or are we doing that on demand? In other words, if a development goes out there, then we will extend the line.
I mean, to this point, we do it on demand unless, Dan, you know something I don't.
Well, the water department developed a plan to extend water lines into existing subdivisions, prioritizing those subdivisions by how many houses per linear foot along the line to establish a priority of running water lines where we would reach the most customers possible with each extension of the line. We've prioritized those locations. We, on occasion, have gone out and written letters to everybody along the proposed route to ascertain if any of those individuals would have an interest in connecting to the system. I think we were looking for at least 50% positive response, and to justify being able to run the line into those locations. We've done this letter writing, I think, on a handful of occasions, and to date, we have not found an area that we've received a 50% response on, so we have not extended lines at this time. But that program is ranking lines within existing service areas now. It is not looking at or extending lines beyond into these, beyond the 1 mile area.
I'm
All
sorry,
right.
go ahead, Butch.
Go ahead, Mr. Patrick.
This may or may not be relevant, but at our last meeting, and I think it was unanimous, that we kind of put a yellow flag up of caution that we don't want to turn Moyoc into urban. We like the rural setting. Will this affect how aggressive we are with expanding the water, our current water map? Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
I think the wastewater is going to be more of a driver of urbanization than water.
I know, but what I'm saying is if we do this, then that's going to put more pressure on the county. If it's going to be within a mile, then we're going to have to start dealing with.
Well, the first thing we need to do is, I think what Mr. Idlet is saying is have a plan presented to the Board of Commissioners at addressing these areas. Are we going to target extending the water lines there? If we are, then our decision is based on the extension of those water lines. If the plan says, and the board agrees, that we're not going to extend water lines, then there's no need to continue to take those funds and just hold them with no plans for extension.
Exactly.
So I think the issue is what is your plan?
Exactly.
Is the issue. Mr. Scanlon talked about the existing subdivisions not they're not going to hook up because unless their well goes bad at whatever the tap fee is or whatever, they're not going to hook up.
That's out-of-pocket homeowners'
But
expense. They're not
right,
gonna do it.
but new subdivisions moving out from the area is the ones that you've got to decide if you're going to provide water to. And I think that's the issue.
And I will comment that the plan that has been developed to date by the staff is within this 1 mile distance of an existing water line. It did not look at any areas that were beyond that distance.
So Mr. White is exempt from anything?
He is not in an area that the staff is looking at now, today, or in the near term of expanding water lines.
So if we approved his request tonight, he's ready to roll.
Could you have a report back to us by the 1st of March?
That was going to be my suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Then, okay, Mr. White, if he is ready to develop by then, it would be a short period of time. And if he's out of that exclusion zone or out of that service zone, he gets his money back. He's done. It's over with.
Which he more than likely will be.
It certainly will. And I understand his point. I certainly do.
Are we going to ask Mr. White to put up money?
If he, as the ordinance is now, he would have to. But if at the end of this study, and it's determined that the board is not going to extend lines out there, whatever the boundary is, you wouldn't have to put up money beyond that.
Yeah, but I don't want the board, while we're trying to decide on what we're going to do, Mr. White is held up from moving forward and starts writing checks, waiting on the county to make a decision. I feel like we can approve his plan and move forward with developing a plan from there.
His plan is not before us.
Yeah,
It's a countywide text amendment. That's
Yeah, it's a
before us.
countywide text amendment that would be all-encompassing for anybody. And
I
I
understand
think
what
one
you're
of,
saying. I understand what you're saying.
Go ahead.
I think one of the concerns that I know I have about this, and again, I echo Commissioner Vance Idlet's statement, is it's a tough decision because there are merits on both sides. But one of the major concerns that I have is that we don't, as a board, make a decision going forward that shifts the burden for providing water or infrastructure ultimately either on the county or someone else down the road. So I would think, I would go along with, you were talking, could staff come up with a plan by March that would give us some ideas about what we're dealing with and not do the piecemeal type approach of getting out ahead of ourselves and then having to deal with unintended consequences down the road for having to foot the bill or had to put the bill on taxpayers.
All right. Well, I do have a public hearing we've got to open up. If y'all have some more comments before we do that.
Well, I think probably the indecision we're seeing here would be a motion to table until March, and staff comes back to clarify some of the questions the other commissioners have. That's all I have.
I want to make sure that I understand we're not affecting Mr. White moving forward.
He can move forward today if he wants to,
But
tomorrow.
he's going to have to put up money.
But he won't even be in a position by March to where he'd have to put up money.
Okay. I
Because
just
you've
want to
got
make sure that I understand.
You've got to go to the planning boards, you've got to, is that not correct, Mr. Scanlon?
We could move a minor forward, I believe, is his intention initially.
We can do that anyways.
The deposit of the bonding you wouldn't actually have to pay that until you got to the plat to take it to record. So yeah, he's not going to have to put up the money we know it'll be after March. The question is, to what extent is this tied to his financing of the property?
Yeah,
I
I
don't know the
understand
answer to
that.
Yeah, but no, the deposit itself is due at the plat of record.
And the amount of money that he puts up is commensurate with what? The distance?
It's 115% of the cost of the installation. Excuse me. It's 115% of the cost of the installation of the water infrastructure in his subdivision and the connection distance based on a formula.
Okay, so he's got to put up 100.
Like he's pretending like he's installing water lines, and he's going to take that, get an estimate for that, then add 15%. And that's what he's got to put
Okay,
up.
so, but the point being is he has to put up 115% of what it's going to cost to run a water line 3 miles.
No, of what it's going to cost to install the infrastructure in his subdivision and the water line connection distance based on a formula related to the number of lots he has.
But it's still, is it based on the 3 miles? Is the 3 miles having anything to do with
It would be about 30-something lots, so probably under 2,000 feet. I mean, it would be maybe a third of a mile, plus the cost of the infrastructure in the subdivision. So no, it wouldn't be the cost of an entire 3 miles run of water main, no. It would be the cost associated with the burden of his development on the water system.
I know I'm old.
There's a formula that
I know, but what I'm saying is he puts in the infrastructure, but it's not connected to anything.
He wouldn't put it in. He would just give the county a cash deposit.
He's going to put up the money for an
Yes,
infrastructure
he'll put up
that
the
doesn't
money.
plug into anything,
For a bond,
or a bond that doesn't plug into anything.
until we take our time and cut the cloth once. Then after we cut the cloth once, he probably, more than likely, is not going to fall under where he'll have to do that. But if you make this text amendment tonight, it's countywide, and we don't know what the full ramifications are, is I think what the issue is, that as Mr. Idlet has.
Okay, I understand. I just don't want him to pay a penalty for us figuring out what we're going to do. And that's my whole concern.
I understand.
And Mr. Petrie, neither do I, and I think I alluded to that in the beginning, but I don't know how we can cut it other than moving it forward and doing it.
Yeah.
Before we open the planning, or the public hearing, should we wait?
Well, I think the applicant has a right to ask his text amendment to be voted on, or he has the right to ask for it to be continued until the board is ready to make a move sometime around the 1st of March. So I think that is going to be up to the engineer and the applicant as to how they wish to proceed. Is that not correct, Mr. Woody?
That is correct.
If I may.
Yeah, come. Yes, please come to the podium, please.
You need to go ahead and open the public hearing.
Yeah, I'm going to open the public hearing at this time. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. First, I wanted to say that Mr. White had in no point in this request wanted to take anything or cause any burden on the taxpayers of Currituck County. He just wanted some relief of services paid for that will not be received, and that's why the text amendment came forward. So he didn't want any, like I said, it's been newspaper articles and things like that. It kind of looked like he was trying to put a burden on the taxpayers, and he has no intention to do that. And I know y'all understand that, but sometimes the public does not. The dollar value we're talking about here, I know it was talked about a minute ago. The cost, the formula for 18 lots is what he's looking at. Calls for 1,160 feet of off-site extension, $29,000. At $25 a foot, that's $29,000. The in-site infrastructure or on-site infrastructure, 1,700 feet, is $42,500. 15% of that is another $10,725. That added to the $6,000 lot tap fee that would be required if nothing changes and he wants to move forward, equates to $190,225 that would have to be put up at final plat. Right now, he has a contract to sell this property with the caveat that this text amendment moves forward, because that number, that $190,000, equates to $10,562 per lot, just for the water services. And then on top of that, you have to pay about a $2,500 well and water softener to actually serve the lot with water. And this is why he's asked for the text amendment, to try to get some relief from these fees. I think we all agree that nobody wants to charge anybody for services they won't, receive. We're just trying to figure out how to get to the finish line and make it feasible for not just this one piece of property, but the entire county. Bonding is a guarantee for improvement. Typically, you use bonding for, and we've used that term a lot around here tonight. A bond guarantees improvement of a known infrastructure, a sidewalk. We can bond a sidewalk, and in case of a default, the county has a recourse to go foreclose on the bond and then make the improvements that were guaranteed by the bond. In this case, a bond really doesn't, this is still a roll of the dice, because if water is not available, if water happens to be available at the end of a certain time period, he would have to, now it's not a bond that you foreclose on, he has to pay for the infrastructure to be improved. After the subdivision has gone and has been constructed, people are not really going to want to sign up, even though the water's here now. Honestly, the time to put the water in is either now during the construction phase or probably not at all. Bonding a future installation for a project that's already complete is just like the ratio of people that really want to sign up after they've got their house established, got their well established, got the water softener. It's less than 50%, according to what Dan said a few minutes ago. So even if you hold this money and wait 5 years, and now the water line comes by, you go into the neighborhood, nobody's going to want it if the neighborhood's built out. Or a few people will. I know when I built my house, there was a meter there, but I didn't hook up to it until I remodeled the house, and I decided to get on to county water, and the county water is a good thing. I don't have to fix my water pump at midnight, or if the power's off, I still can use the water. It's a good thing, but once you've already got your other system in place and up and functioning, then people typically don't want to take on a monthly payment. Like I said, simply we tried to ask for some relief from the fees, because he is about 4.5 miles out from a water service that would be available. And that's what we're trying to do. Is I wanted to bring you some real numbers so you could actually equate what's going on and see what we're talking about. And I know it's all about the money. And it's like I say, in his particular case, the land contract won't move forward until this issue gets resolved. If he was doing the development himself, he could wait until March and then get some relief at that time, but he's not actually the first. He's trying to sell the property to somebody who wants to develop it, and this is a caveat to that sale.
So what would a denial of this amendment do to his being able to sell it?
It would probably kill the deal.
So you're telling me that if it's unreasonable for us to want to take a comprehensive look at this for the countywide before we make a move?
No, I think it'd be a better option to do that than to deny it, because if it's a flat denial, there's still no glimmer of hope.
And it may be that staff has it done sooner than March. I saw a bead of sweat break out on the manager's forehead when I said that, but it could be possible that we have, is the engineer in here?
I believe he is.
We can do it before March.
How about February 1st?
We could have it done February 1st.
Okay.
What is that going to do to this sale?
I don't know what it'll do to his sale, because I haven't seen a contract.
That'll have to be renegotiated, and
Yes,
like I
sir.
say, I'm not privy to that information. But I do know Ben and I have had some good discussions, as well as I have with some of y'all, about the other things you need to consider as this moves forward. So,
Eddie, I mean, you and I talked today. And,
Yes, sir.
And you know my feelings. I certainly
Yeah.
don't want to penalize I don't know any other way of fixing the issue. It needs to be fixed. You agreed with that. You
Agreed.
told me you've been harping on this for some time.
That's right.
And it needs to be fixed. And,
Oh,
and that's my intent. I'm trying to fix it. Please bear with me and
No
don't
problem there.
paint me as
No
a bad
problem.
guy for trying to fix it.
No, well, it's been a gray area since the ordinance was written, and it does need to be fixed.
Don't disagree. But you did say a while ago, you said in the fees that he would put, you said part of that fee was a $6,000 tap fee.
That's right.
Okay, well, if the tap fee is paid in a new subdivision, then why, if the tap fee is paid, the people that have moved into that subdivision don't have to worry about hooking up to it. The tap fee's paid.
That's correct. It is paid for
So,
them.
I mean, it's not a.
But
it's a whole
do
lot
they
different
do
than
they
what Mr.
want it or
Scanlon's
not?
talking about.
Do they want it or not?
And the infrastructure's in.
Well, I mean, if it's
I can
paid-
tell you, if they're in that part of Moyoc, they
They're
want
gonna
it.
Sure.
They want it right now if they're in that part of Moyoc. We get a lot of complaints about the water quality as you head towards
Well,
South Mills.
I'm not bashing the county water. Believe me, it is a good thing. It's just
Yeah.
I got one more.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
What happens February 1st, Mr. White gets a stay, an extension. February 1st rolls around, county says, oop, March 1st, oop, April 1st. Meanwhile, he just keeps putting his sale off. Are we going to put a deadline that we're going to do something by February 1st?
I'm planning on doing that in the motion. Yes, sir.
February 1st. But what if we change an ordinance and we make a mistake, as we've done in the past on some ordinances because we didn't do the proper study before we passed it, and then we try to figure out how, like a cat in a cat box, how to fix it. So I'd rather take the time and cut once than have to cut twice.
I know, but when you give people dates, you got to be able to live by them.
I
me.
have faith in the staff.
And I would suggest, other than saying February 1st, that you refer to your
First
first meeting in February.
All right, anyone else? Public
thank you very much.
hearing? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will allude to what Mr. Martin says. I think what I will do is ask that we table this until the first meeting in March.
February.
February, excuse me, I'm sorry, excuse me. And also, along with that, I'll ask that the county staff develop, oh Lord, excuse me, computers. Develop a 10-year comprehensive plan. Bear with me a second, please. Okay. That county staff develop a 10-year comprehensive water supply study for presentation to and adoption by this board, and that upon adoption of the comprehensive water study, county staff draft and process for consideration by this board a UDO text amendment to provide that proposed subdivisions within the water supply study area be required to connect to the county water system or provide a cash deposit for future connections, and that the proposed subdivisions outside the water supply study area be exempt from connections to county water or required to provide a cash deposit for future connections. That's my motion.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business is board appointments for appointment at large member to Albemarle Commission.
I believe Diane Burry.
Y'all had someone you were
Yes.
on?
I think Diane Burry has
Retired senior center.
director. She has served there before, and she has indicated she would like to be appointed again.
All right. Any other recommendations? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Mr. Scanlon, I see we have members from Crawford here tonight, and they're here for a particular item. Is that being addressed tonight?
It is not being addressed tonight. It'll be at your next meeting.
Be at our next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Are they going to be allowed to proceed with what they're doing until that meeting? I mean, is this anything that keeps them?
I think they've done what they were going to do.
Okay, it's just a matter of at the next meeting getting the approval. I mean,
It's for the Board of Commissioners to approve, yes, sir.
He's shaking his head no.
We're at a standstill. We can't do any more work until this gets cleared up.
okay.
Do you need a motion to allow him to speak? What do you
Yes.
need? I'd make a motion to allow him to come forward with
Yes, Mr.
I'd say.
Daly, and,
Probably need a second.
yeah, speak to the issue. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is concerning the budget amendment I thought was going to be on here tonight, or an agreement.
It's actually an amendment to an agreement that the board has executed with Crawford Volunteer Fire Department.
Right. All right, Mr. Daly, you will speak to it.
Yeah, basically, in some emails and correspondence back with Dan, we came to an additional $39,000. And part of that $39,000 is an overage due to some additional work we had to do as far as our septic system and some other requirements under the basic contract. And the contractor currently is out of pocket. Bear with me. Currently out of pocket, $26,71.89. And the remaining part is due to the ADA items that we had to do at the station, which we've met, put an agreement between us and the building inspector, and that was all approved. So right now, there's no further work going on until we can come whole with the original balance of $26,071.89.
And this agreement for the general public is Crawford did an expansion on their Sligo station, and instead of going to a bank and borrowing the money, the county financed the project for them, correct?
That's correct.
And due to some issues, as you just outlined, the request is to amend the loan document by $39,000
It's more than that. We're going to pay some
on your own.
from fundraiser funds. The rest of it is $39,000, yes.
Which would be an amendment from,
Well, you're requesting additional $39,000 from the county.
That's correct.
So it would be an amendment to the loan agreement of $120,000 to amend that agreement to add an additional $39,000 to that agreement. And I think what Crawford has agreed to is not change the terms of the original contract. It will just increase the amount of the annual payment that they will make back to the county on that loan.
That's correct. Just keep it at the 15 years.
15 years.
And just increase the payment.
Mr. Chairman?
yes, sir.
I mean, when y'all had the design and all done, I mean, didn't the architect do that and have it bonded? I mean, if it's requirements that wasn't addressed in the original design, I'm missing something maybe.
The additional items we had to do was in regards to the septic system.
I thought you said ADA requirements.
The ADA, that's correct. It was not addressed with the architect.
It was ADA and septic issues.
I think the architect would be if.
The ADA is, the ADA part came to $13,782.
What's preventing us from voting on that tonight?
I think the manager would have to say that the funds are available and he could make the amendment.
It'd also be preferable to actually have a written amendment before you to consider. I mean, one suggestion might be if they have $26,000 to use that out of their available fund balance from their funds, and it can be replaced,
Reimbursed at
from
the next meeting.
the grant agreement when you amend it in 2 weeks.
Can you do that?
I can check. I don't have the checkbook. That's all handled by
I understand.
the treasurer. So, I mean, I
Understand.
honestly can't, because we're pulling some of this out of some money that we've raised from bingo.
I guess our issue is voting on something without the agreement, is what you're saying.
That's correct. I mean, I would assume that the board would approve it, but again, the better practice would be for you to have a written document in front of you.
Can we make a conditional approval that the agreement be presented to the county manager and attorney, and you execute it if it's agreeable, and if it is not, then it'd wait till the next meeting?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think I'm going to draft it on behalf of the county. At a minimum, you would need to ratify any agreement at a subsequent meeting if it's going to be executed before you actually approve it at a meeting.
Looking for a way to proceed here.
Well, I mean, I thought, I gave a suggestion that they have funds available. They can go ahead and pay it out of those funds, and then replace it with the additional grant monies once you approve the grant agreement. However, if you feel like it's necessary to go ahead and authorize the disbursement of these funds, then obviously the staff would do as the board directs, and you would want to ratify a written contract at your next meeting.
All right, it's up to the board.
I'd make a motion to do that, that our attorney has proposed, and we can go forward with it and take care of that. And if we find out that the Crawford Fire Department does have the $26,000, then we could do the amendment and close it out at the next meeting. If not,
Now, are you saying that, is your,
Go ahead.
I'll second it, but then when it comes to the discussion, I want to make sure I understand it.
Yeah,
Actually,
what
if
he's
we're going
saying-
to wait till the next meeting, there's no amendment to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
right.
Because it's not on the agenda tonight. So
Right.
if you're waiting, if you're following the attorney's advice, wait until the next meeting, then there's no amendment to do.
What he said was that he could go ahead and do that.
I gave the other option, obviously, the board directs.
Yes,
and
we could
I don't
direct
know
him to
what-
go ahead and do it.
I don't know whether a budget amendment's necessary, whether the county has the funds available in an account
Right.
that it could fund this in advance of your approval of a budget amendment. However, if the board directs, then obviously we would go ahead and draft an amendment to the grant agreement, have that executed, but of course have you ratify its
That at the next
execution
meeting.
at a subsequent meeting.
All
And
right.
I would propose that.
Are the funds available?
Well, this board hasn't approved them, so I believe what we would have to do is we would, at the staff level, advance them amounts under their operating contract until the board ratifies the contract and allows the money to be available to pay the additional $39,000. But right now, the board hasn't approved additional $39,000 to be made available, so therefore we couldn't write a check against something the board hasn't approved. But we certainly can advance them contractual. I mean, they have a contract for the remainder of the year. We can advance them a month or two or whatever the amount would be until your next meeting, at which time you can ratify or execute the contract and approve a budget amendment to move the money.
Is that something you could do, Chief?
Yeah, as long
It
as
is
it's in
advance
the
on your
money.
budget. You
We'll
get the
work,
money.
basically, my concern is just trying to bring the contractor at least whole at this point.
Right.
You know, and I can't speak to the funds because that's something I don't get into.
I know, but if we're talking about the county advancing you money on a future, on your future draw, I think if I'm saying that right.
Well, it'd be predicated upon the motion I believe Commissioner Martin was in the process of making.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Martin, make your motion so that we can move on.
Third time.
That's the charm.
Following the advice of the attorney and how we could go ahead and advance that to the Crawford Fire Department, and we will, I guess, vote on that and approve it at our next meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Staff comfortable with that?
Let me clarify, if for discussion purposes.
Yes.
We're doing what Dan said. We're going to advance.
Right.
Right.
They get $300,000 annually for fire protection. We're going to advance them a month's worth of contract money that's already been budgeted. We're not going out and finding other money. We're going to advance them that until we make it whole and do it the right way.
At the next
That's what
meeting.
we're going to do.
Right.
Correct.
I mean, I'm not willing to.
Right.
I'm not willing to go out here and say, well, we're going to find money, we're going to sign for it later.
Right.
If we can do it that way, I'm in favor of
would
it.
be
If
a
we got
month
to do
or
it another
two.
way, I'm not.
It would be a month or two advance against that, so they would be able to take care of the contractor.
As long as it's clean, that's.
All right.
Right.
We have a motion. We had a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion for approval.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
You're done.
Okay.
You're taken care of. Commissioners report, Mr. Griggs?
I have nothing.
Mr. Martin?
Only we like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and very safe travel time. And if you get a chance, take us up over at Wellhead. Go and see the decorations. I'll be there.
Yes, amen.
Mr. Idlet?
I was approached by someone at Knott's Island last couple of days. The Hunt Ferry has been out of service for some time. They've been doing a lot of work on it, a lot of rehab. We all know the situation with ferries and monies, and the Knott's Island Ferry was up for replacement, and I'm not going to get into it. We all know the details. So they have found places in the bottom. They've had to replace metal in the bottom. A lot of things are going on. They're working diligently trying to get it back in service. But the school kids are having to ride the old Ocracoke ferries on the buses, and they're having to stay on the buses the whole trip. Now, they did get, a year ago, they got approval from the Coast Guard to allow them to keep the buses running for heat or whatever, but it's still, it's kind of tight, keeping those kids pinned up in that bus and, and having to get off, go to the bathroom, and I understand even had a little seasickness. It was so rough one day. But I would just ask that the county maybe send a letter or something to the Ferry Division and ask them to expedite the Knott's Island Ferry and letting them know that we realize that they're doing all they can do, but just to let them know that it is a pretty strong impact on the school kids, and we would appreciate any.
Okay. Commissioner Petrie is the county's representative on the RPO, and we've had a series of meetings specifically with the Ferry Division as it relates to the new funding formula, and I believe they've informed you that our ferry is replaced and should be here the 20th, which is in
As of
couple
last
days.
Friday, the delivery date, the Coast Guard inspection, the final inspection, which they're not foreseeing any problems, will be the 19th or the 20th, and then they're going to bring her home in 6 hours, no later than the 21st.
Well, that's wonderful.
That was assured that by the deputy director, deputy chief, so hopefully by the 21st.
I just remember the last time it was out. I mean, the check was in the mail for 2 or 3 weeks, and I just want to let them know
That was
we
as
do
of
have an
last
interest
Friday.
there.
Anything else? Mr. Idlet?
No, sir, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Petrie?
Happy Thanksgiving.
And the only thing I have to say is we are getting to the holiday season, and it is a time to be seriously thankful for family and friends and neighbors and consider others a little more than we consider ourselves. Not everyone is as fortunate as you, no matter what your circumstances are, and just hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving.
And I ditto that. I'm sorry, I failed to say that.
Mr. County Manager?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
This time, I'd like a motion to recess the Board of Commissioners meeting and reconvene as Tourism Development Authority. I have a motion.
Second.
Second. Mr. Scanlon?
Mr. Chairman, you're convening tonight as the TDA to consider 3 budget amendments that are in your agenda package. One is to increase the line item for insurance. Our flood insurance premium for the building is higher than it had been in the previous years, so there's a budget amendment to increase that line item $835. There is a budget amendment to provide the funding. We are hopefully getting closer any day now to closing on the piece of property in Corolla to put a bathroom access facility over there, and you've got a budget amendment in your agenda package to provide the funding to close on that property. And the last one is a budget amendment. You had a request from the Wellhead Trust. They, as you've seen in previous presentations, they have done a comprehensive master plan for Heritage Park that was prepared by Clearscapes. At the trust meeting last week, they voted to appropriate $100,000 to the first project or the first phase of that master plan. And they've submitted a request to the Board of Commissioners for you to consider matching that so we can accomplish some level of work between now and next season. And you have a budget amendment in your package to approve $100,000 for that. And I'll be happy to answer the question on any of the 3 of the projects.
And these funds come from
They're all
excess collections?
Yes, sir.
And occupancy tax?
Yes, sir.
A reflection of the increase of the tourism that we've seen over the last couple of years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Need a motion?
So move.
Have a
I'll
motion?
second. I'll
Second?
second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We need a motion to adjourn the Tourism Development Authority meeting, reconvene as a Board of Commissioners, and adjourn our Board of Commissioners meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries, meeting adjourned, and happy Thanksgiving.